And next up is a regular speaker at our event and a great friend to Pocket Gamer over the years, Ted Verani from Wappier, who's going to be talking about maximizing IAP revenue with pricing optimization.
All right, thank you, Dave. Everybody can hear me okay in the back? Okay, I got my water. All right, as Dave said, my name is Ted Verani. I am head of business development for Wappier. And today we're going to talk about maximizing IAP revenue with pricing optimization. Or another way, think about how to make 20 or 40% more money just by optimizing your prices correctly. And why is this topic important, at least to me, is because pricing is what, like think about pricing, right? If you read the marketing literature, pricing is core to the marketing mix. It even gets its own P among the 4 Ps. You're reading the literature, but it's fundamental. And we come to these conferences and we talk about monetization. And then monetization is often, people want to talk about ad monetization. I'm not trying to take anything away from ads and monetizing there. That's hugely important too, as well too. But the other half of that monetization coin is indeed pricing. And if you are making you're selling your in-app items and you expect people to purchase them, we think that putting some thought and some consideration in terms of what is the right price, the right time, right location is indeed critical for your success. So there's a problem with pricing right now, right? And that's one problem is that most game developers have basically a one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to pricing. So simply put, you're mispriced for the majority of the world. Because people respond differently to different prices right now. And that's sort of an obvious, intuitive sort of thing we think about ourselves in terms of how we make our own purchases. But again, thinking about gaming, it's a digital good with no marginal cost, right? The right price is what someone, frankly, is willing to pay for it. And if we can get pricing right, if we can kind of, the beautiful thing about pricing is that it is just a number, right? And a small change to a number has a great outsized impact in terms of whether or not someone will make a purchase, indeed for maximizing your IAP revenue. A little bit on the company. I don't want to spend a huge amount of time here. Of course, I do have 3 extra minutes. Maybe I just really linger here. But no, I don't. I really want to mix commercial less. But this is what we do, right? Not just pricing, but fundamentally, who is Wappier? We're an AI company with, we have deep insights into player behavior. We take those insights, we try to influence that behavior to a more positive outcome for the game developer. Case of pricing, it's right price, right time, right location. We do that with a lot of big game companies out there right now. So I'm going to share with you now some information about how you can really do it yourself as well. So it's not really just about come work with us type thing. 2 of the main things that we focus on as a company, not the whole entire thing, but part of our, pricing optimization suite, if you will, is, and 2 things for you to think about, for your own game, is first global pricing. What is the right price on a per country level, for your game? And then secondly, going past that is promotional pricing, right? And here we really are now thinking about per user pricing, for our individual game. First, let's talk about global pricing, right? I don't know how many of you guys are game developers here too, but if I were to ask you, I have a show of hands, there's a few of us out here, how many have localized their game? If you are a game developer, do you think about when you go to a new country, you should put, in another language, right? Appropriate for the language? Do you think about the same thing in prices, right? I guess my point of view is that if you've localized your game, made the effort, frankly, to translate it to Spanish, then you should maybe also think about what is for right in the local currency for that country. Because my view is that there's no one size fits all when it comes to pricing, and yet most game developers, you price your game for United States. That's fair; it's your largest market, out there. You price it for United States, but then you just let the app stores do currency rate conversion for other countries. It's not sufficient, right? And going past that, right? Even if is that because first of all, it's the app stores will adjust your currency rate conversion when you actually upload and create. You're not even managing an ongoing basis according to currency rate fluctuations. There's a lot going on in the world right now, and currency rates are actually going all over the place. So, but even that alone is not sufficient. But if you are doing that, I applaud you on doing that. Most people are not doing it. But then pricing to demand curve and really understanding price elasticities does take some really deep insights into local purchasing power for the individual local economies. And then, going past that though, games, in your games, is, you're talking about hundreds of price SKUs potentially. You're talking about magnifying that on 30 different countries. Potentially, you're talking about managing thousands of price SKUs. So as you do this, you need to think about how you're going to manage, these different SKUs. But again, just to kind of bang home the point, they mentioned earlier, small change into a number, just your price, makes all the difference to whether someone's converting to a payer, whether they're going to come back and keep making more purchases yourself. And that's what global pricing is, localizing your pricing, right? And this is going beyond just, but we want to go beyond just the local currency rate, fluctuation, but instead, it says optimize your prices according to someone's willingness to spend across all live SKUs. I want to stress that point. I was having a conversation earlier today with someone who was, and I think they oh yeah, we did some special promotions in Brazil. I'm like, well, that was all live SKUs? No, it was just like a special offer. I'm like, okay, so that's cool that you were doing that, but like you actually potentially was hurting your game economy in that situation because you've got US prices effectively in the storefront, and then the other special offer was dramatically lower in terms of the reales conversion. So it became actually more of a mess. So if you are doing, you need a horizontal price adjustment across all live SKUs is important. And then what we're seeing on average across now like 100 games is 20 to 40% on average increase on revenue outside the US, just by managing prices. Sometimes a little bit lower, sometimes even higher. I get this question, is it a Big Mac index you're using? And somehow whispering that to me to like they've dialed into some sort of like secret, so I don't even know where it began. And maybe someone else knows that. Where did it begin that where people started thinking that, a Big Mac was some sort of universal product around the world that we would somehow price against too. So, but no, fast answer is not doing it because, if you think about it, I don't know, I'm from the US and Big Mac is quite inexpensive. Sometimes you see it like 99 cents advertised. I think it's just an excuse to sell soda, as far as I can tell. You go to some countries, and typically lower income countries, where you would think, you got to think about lowering price. Big Mac might be date night, and actually the local food, which I frankly would prefer, is going to be less expensive than say going to McDonald's. So no, not a Big Mac index, not to belabor that point. Instead, what you want to do, and what we do, is look at a lot of other data outside of your game, right? So it's not about how people engagement data within your game. I'll get that, a little bit later. But it is all this information is publicly available, right? So it's really macroeconomic data. So as I mentioned, GDP, GDP publicly available. Your currency, rates out there, the exchange rates and how they're fluctuating against each other, publicly available. This is something you can monitor. This is what we do. This is what you can do in terms of monitoring. Going past that, we do want to understand household purchasing power, right? So that's where understanding microeconomic data. So getting an idea of household purchasing power for doing that. And then going past that, is game statistics, right? So, what is the ratio of smartphones in an individual country? What's your, what's the, iOS versus, Android, and then, then game statistics itself, right? What is the transactions going on in the country? Because it's not about necessarily GDP in a country, but it's what's the GDP or purchasing power among the gamer population of that country. And then with that data, what we've done in effect is create a wappier index. As we've been doing this a while, we know what other games are doing too, but like if you start ingesting this, then start making some sequential price tests directly into the app stores, for that. This is what we do, people. Key point here is, caution is, we get this question, too, but you don't change price and then next day look at it and see if it's working. It's not enough time. Because when you're measuring impact, try to measure working, you want to look at ARPU on a country level. And let's face it, you're talking about small number of payers per country, so it's to get enough data to sort of have a measurable impact, you need to let some time pass. So you need to be patient, right? So in our case, we'll make monthly price adjustments, on that. And so we do ask our customers for patience, but after like a 3-month calibration, we know we've priced it correctly. We're pricing it according to the demand curve. Going forward, it's small changes to price, right? So we're not suggesting dynamic pricing here, willy-nilly sort of changing very quickly, but very slow, very cautious, very deliberate price adjustments according to local purchasing power. Doing this correctly, what you're going to see is a big increase in payer conversion. You will, the truth is that some people already were spending in your game, big spenders, they're going to get a better deal, right? And that's okay, because what you're going to have now is more people spend your game, frankly, making your game more healthy, right? As we bring to it. And then you're going to see also is an increase in the number of transactions, for your game too. So again, healthier. So really what we see also is improvement in retention just from pricing. So it's not just about IAP revenue, but we also see improvement in retention. Taking all together, you're going to see an increase in IAP revenue just by making a small change to price across all countries. So again, all live SKUs on a per country basis, more or less the same sort of discount. Some cases we raise price, just so there are some countries that you can think of high income, the intuitively obvious perhaps, where we've done like UAE, the Qatar, even Switzerland. In those cases we might have raised price. Actually, funny enough, did Ireland once. So I don't know why, but we had the data that backed it up. And every game is different. So just because we've had some experience in one game, we always test everything very thoroughly for the next game. So it's even if it's the same genre, it doesn't always. So it begins with a good starting point, but that's not going to be. It's not copying one game and taking it to the next game. A couple case studies to share. I like this one. It's a casino game. I mean, let's name them, but it's part of a large public company, so they do real money gaming. They rely on us for pricing. It's been live since 2018. So the point being, the pricing is not a set at once done in proposition, right? As I said earlier, we know it's when the world changes, people come in and out of your game. Your pricing also needs to adjust accordingly. But I also like this slide too, similar, it shows their experience because an easy assumption to make, and it's true, that you'll see growth among your lower income countries. So you expect to see your Peru, your Brazil, your Romania increases there too, but higher income countries as well. Like so, check out Germany, 81% increase in revenue, right? Similar income as the U.S., but 81%. So point being, it's just because someone spends a lot in the U.S. on your game does not necessarily mean Sweden or Germany in this case will won't sell for you. Gin's Journey, another game, let's name them. So very large game, hidden objects games out there, on average about 10, 40, 30% increase on a monthly basis. Does fluctuate up and down. Harry Potter from Jam City, big game, over $2 million of revenue. We're optimizing, for them, about 50 countries. Again, similar story. We see this across the board, right? Is that, it's a mix of high income, low income, Eurozone, for instance. Great opportunity, right? Think about one currency, one euro currency, but yet you got your high income Finland to, Greece, and the country. So a lot of variety, but yet one, currency in there too. And also, a bigger revenue base often, so getting it just a change price can have a big impact. So global pricing works. My clicker doesn't. So, okay, we fixed our prices, global basis. Are you still leaving money on the table? Yes, you are. Because really what, we want to think about next is promotional pricing. So this is what we do for folks. First, think about global pricing is fixing your prices on a per country basis across the board. Promotional pricing, this is when we start really taking advantage of our machine learning technologies, insights to player behavior, and start doing per user pricing. But we're not talking about dynamic pricing here. We're not talking about like, just rapidly changing price on people. We don't want to become like an Uber, within your game. That's not the suggestion here at all. But price special offers within a game is a great opportunity when you think about it, right? Because special offers, they tend to be event-based. They tend to be time-based or seasonal, right? So we are already preconditioned as a customer to see a special offer and expect for it to go away. So from a game developer perspective, that's a great opportunity to sort of, what's the right price? And the right price is what someone's willing to spend for it, right? So at a very simple level, someone's new to your game, haven't spent all, obviously should be less expensive for that person than someone who's already spending your game. But right now, most people treat special offers or promos the same for everyone. Segment your players in there as they come to them and deliver different prices. So we do it from a machine learning perspective, it's in technology. I don't want to necessarily describe that, what we're doing, because it's something we help. Instead, what I'd like to offer you is sort of 3 do-it-yourself hacks that you can do yourself, to think about. It's more about behavioral psychology, One is personalize a special offer, right? And here, one way, and one way to personalize a special offer is to think about seasonality. And, so first of all, for any of your special offers in the game, and downtime means player engagement, right? So whether it's the morning commute or it's after school or it's in the evening time, any downtime is more people are playing your game. So that's more players coming in the game. You really want to think about doing special offers for them too. But seasonality also translates to time of year. So think about the holidays or the summer months, right? Those are times when people have more time on their hands. Again, translates to engagement. But, also consider that whenever, just because you have more people coming in the game doesn't mean they're inherently buying. It's actually a little bit the opposite. So, they are actually probably less engaged on your game itself. So it takes something a little extra to get them, to encourage them to buy, on that, so that's why you want to think hard about that special offer that you put in. So whether it's a first purchase discount or, some sort of, holiday special thing, thinking about how you're packaging up, making that offer for them to be compelling, because great opportunity, more players, coming in during this time, checking you out, but more important to just, when they're at that moment of purchase consideration, to have the right offer in front of them. In general, we're seeing, 15 to 30% increase when we're doing promotional pricing for people, just from, making it targeted. One thing I read, so I brought it up, here is one study saw that for doing your holiday specials correctly, saw 83% increase in revenue above the annual average. So time as you're leading into those holiday months, it's your biggest purchase time. Some real thought consideration in terms of how you want to do those. Obviously, you want to do Black Friday Day, but don't just do Black Friday Day just like everyone else. Make your special offer timely. So that, point number 2. I don't mean, so seasonality is the time of year, so I mean time of day. And what we want to do here is try to pinpoint prime time, right? What do we mean by prime time? So prime time is, the time when someone is actually more likely, for an average people in the US, I'm not sure the global state, the US probably play 24 minutes a day within the mobile game. And that is, the peak usage is actually fine 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., which kind of makes sense. But it's, for me, it's kind of funny too, because prime time was coined, made by advertisers for broadcasting, right? So that's when your best TV shows were always in the evening after work, and the biggest ad dollars or the most expensive commercials went on network TV. That's why I called it prime time. Within your game, might also translate that. So that's an interesting point to know. But get the data for your game. Really understand when people really because your data might tell you something different, or even better, it's trying to pinpoint that time outside of like the average prime time and the same prime time like that. What's prime time for your game? We did some pricing with a game. It's a shooter game, and actually shooting dinosaurs. And for whatever reason, we saw like there was a lot of people like activity engagement late at night. And I just imagined people like getting drunk at a bar or something, and like, oh, the bar's cold. What are you gonna do now? So shoot up some dinosaurs. I don't know what it was, but but knowing your game, when is that periods of time that is a good time to price something, is a great opportunity for you to think about. So questions to ask, like, when are people making purchases? What are the average sessions? What is the average session length within the game? How long are people playing? What's your when have they made a purchase in the last 7 days? Do you anticipate them making a purchase? Right. It all depends on the company and the data you have, and the insights and the data science you might have within your company. But all this data information can really help you to think about how you optimize those special offers for your players. Third one, make special players feel special. Make new players feel special, rather. So like I had a boss used to say, bring in the noobs, and what we do know is that 30% of your players are going to come after day one. They're not going to come back, right? So 1/3 of people who download you, and you spend a lot of money to download, or however they come into your game, they download your game, you're excited, 1/3 is not going to come back. So let's think hard about first purchase if they do see price for that, because really our goal here is try to, in the first 3 days, try to get a purchase out of someone. Those first 3 days are very critical, because in fact, even 18, I said 30% leave in that first day, 18% of an average game's revenue actually comes in that first day. So people are making some decisions pretty quick on one, whether they like your game, they're going to return, 2, whether they're going to purchase. And those early decisions are going to inform, the lifetime value for that player within your game too. So how do we get people to buy? One is to, leverage existing data, create a compelling first purchase discount. Everyone should have a first purchase discount, right? Let's just, thank people for coming in, let's encourage and make that first purchase. Better is to, segment your players. If you can think about, if you have the insights around affluence, so geolocation, if you're able to track that, the device type are strong signals of affluence, right? Someone's coming in from, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, it's a high income area, that's affluent. Other parts of the United States, are less affluent, right? So that's an important signal. Set an IAP promotion to run once a user hits their first challenge level. So what is that first challenge level? Create a promotion geared around that. We want to get person more engaged in the game, get them to that next level, reward them for doing that. create bundles of negatively correlated goods. What's a negatively correlated good? This is two items that people might not actually purchase together, right? And so think of a medieval fighting game. If someone buys the broadsword, they're not going to buy the short sword. Okay, so, well, let's package those together, present it as a very steep price discount. Player just thinks, wow, what a great deal. As long as it's more expensive than this one item, you're ahead, on that too. And and the player actually feels really good about their purchase. So they're actually feeling better about your game, and they made it, buy it, as soon as someone makes a purchase, they're more likely to purchase again, right? So again, that's our goal here, get that first purchase. Another spook, it's got to move along. Message the user directly to alert them to various purchase opportunities. Better do contextual in-app messages than push notifications. And determine what low friction, high value item special offers to people. What we do know is that majority of purchases are single use items, but 65% of revenue actually comes from lifetime items. So understanding your own game, the mix between those two, use that information to think about what sort of special offer you want to give that player. And then a word of caution, just to kind of close this out, is don't be too generous. And what does that mean? Don't want to give too much away, right? Again, the goal of the first purchase is to get them to come by again, right? It's enough. You want to give them enough to where they have a taste of it, they have a snack, they're more engaged. They want to, you don't want to give them so much so that they have no reason to buy again, right? So while everything I've been saying so far is about trying to get that first purchase in 3 days, D7 retention is your most critical, statistic, right? So the most important is, you want to make sure you're having a 10% D7 retention, and you want 10% of those players actually be payers. And if you're not quite hitting that mark, you may be being too generous in terms of what you're giving away earlier on. So watch that very closely in how you give that out. And then you will be, and I've run out of time. These are turn signals into, but case study here. It works. This is a perfect example, Nanobit Hollywood story, where we took them from global pricing, took them to promotional pricing, a net positive impact. So again, first, fix your prices globally across the board. Next, think about how you leverage insights into player behavior to start to make your special offers more targeted to boost payer conversion, maximize overall revenue. Run out of time, but I will be in the hallway if anyone has any questions. It's a good thing we started early. Yeah.
Do you know what, that was great and perfectly to time, even with the extra time. Appreciate that. Does anyone have a question? We could take one question. I'm trying to maybe, it was one down here. Are you all right to take a question, Ted? Let's make time for that.
I don't mind. I don't want to just take away from the next speaker.
It's okay. We'll build it in at the end. There you go.
And I met them in the hallway and they seemed very nice, so you should stick around.
Yeah, super quick. For games with larger communities, do you notice that for games with larger communities, do you notice that international players will compare notes when it comes to pricing or make an unwarranted stink when prices adjust?
Well, the fast answer is no, but worthy of some elaboration on that is that and it's a good question to ask, right? Because I think games are social inherently, and something kind of worried that we do not from global pricing, but it's also how we do it. So we are, and I mentioned earlier about doing sequential steps and waiting some time pass. The only time people notice things like price changes and start communicating, generally people only go to message boards when they see something they don't like. So mostly we're going to lower prices, frankly, make the prices more fair on a per country basis. So generally there's not much complaining about that. So human nature is we only complain. When we talk about it, we don't like, hey, it's all low price. But going past that, the biggest change that we do to a price when we're localizing prices on a per country basis is right away. So let's just agree right away your game's very mispriced. But then after that, 1 month later, it's a smaller change. And after that, even smaller change. And then going forward, because we do optimize monthly, but after that's most of our currency rate fluctuation. So it's 5, 10%. So no, people do not notice it. But and we've tested it. We run, we've worked with Harry Potter, big game. It's also social. Worked with some Scopely games also that have where these concerns are very so far no, but we don't want to say it's impossible.